Did you know that giants actually existed on Earth, and the Bible talks about them in a clear and shocking manner? But here's what most people don't tell you. These giants aren't just myths or ancient stories. There's a dark secret surrounding the Nephilim, and the truth could completely change everything you know about the past and even the future. In this video, we'll reveal the most astonishing evidence about the giants of the Bible, who they were, where they came from, and why they might be more significant than you think. We'll explore conspiracies, hidden mysteries, and what this all means for the end times. But here's the challenge. Stay with us until the end to uncover the most surprising connection between the ancient giants and our present day. It's a truth so powerful that it will completely alter how you view the Bible. The Nephilim, these mysterious beings, appear in one of the most cryptic passages of Scripture. To understand who they were, let's go straight to the source. Genesis 6:4, which states, "There were giants on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God came in to the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. The same became mighty men, men of renown, as described in ancient times." This single verse raises the question of who the sons of God were, and how these giants came to be known as mighty men and men of renown. The term Nephilim, meaning fallen ones or those cast down, carries more significance than just mere curiosity. Many believe the sons of God were fallen angels, beings who defied divine order and by mingling with human women created a terrifying and unique lineage. Were these just metaphors, or did they truly walk the earth, altering humanity's course? Imagine a world consumed by corruption, that human wickedness was great, and only evil was in the hearts of mankind. The Nephilim presence heightened this corruption, symbolizing a distorted creation. What happened to these giants when the flood came? Were they all destroyed, or did their influence linger? The verse hints at a clue, stating that giants existed in those days and after. This mystery is the focus of the next topic as we examine the giants before and after the divine judgment. What truly happened to the Nephilim? The flood marked a moment of destruction and rebirth, but did it erase all traces of the Bible's giants? Genesis 7:23 tells us that all life was destroyed, and only Noah and those with him in the ark survived. This suggests that the Nephilim, the giants of the earth at the time, should have been wiped out. However, there is a mystery in this narrative. How do we explain the reappearance of giants later on? Numbers 13:33 mentions spies sent to the promised land who reported seeing giants, the sons of Anakim, and felt like grasshoppers in comparison. Where did these giants come from after the flood? A fascinating theory suggests a possible lineage of giants connected to Ham, Noah's son. This idea posits that the corruption of the pre-flood world might have resurfaced through certain descendants. But it doesn't end there. Deuteronomy 2:10-11. The text discusses the Emim and the Rims, giant tribes living in Canaan, described as numerous and tall like the Anakim. This raises the question of whether the flood's judgment was about more than just flesh and blood, suggesting something spiritual might have allowed the Nephilim's seed to return. The Bible clearly shows these giants were a persistent threat to God's people. But who were these tribes, and how did they spread across the ancient world? As Israel neared the Promised Land, they encountered a major obstacle: tribes of giants scattered throughout the land. In Joshua 11:21-22, it is noted that Joshua defeated the Anakim from various regions in Judah and Israel, completely destroying them and their cities. Who were the Anakim, and why were they so feared? The giants were not ordinary people. Deuteronomy 2:20-21 mentions the Emim, Zamzumim, and Rims, describing them as numerous and tall. These tribes were remnants of a unique lineage that directly opposed God's plans for Israel. Their imposing physical stature and presence turned the Promised Land into a battleground, both spiritually and physically. Additionally, the regions they occupied, such as Bashan and Canaan, were strategically important and heavily fortified. Numbers 13:28 recounts the spies' report, describing cities with great walls, inhabited by seemingly insurmountable peoples. These stories highlight not just the giants' size and strength, but also the fear they inspired, even among experienced warriors. However, these conflicts were more than just military struggles. Each battle with these tribes symbolized a spiritual fight, affirming that God was the true ruler of the land. Among all the giants in the Bible, one stands out: Og, the king of Bashan, whose story in Deuteronomy 3:11 makes him an iconic figure in this resistance. We discover an intriguing detail about Og, the last of the giants, who was the king of Bashan. His bedstead, made of iron, measured 9 cubits in length and 4 in breadth, approximately 13.5 feet, 4 meters long, and 6 feet, 1.8 meters wide. A man requiring such a large bed was extraordinary. Og was not only a giant in size, but also in influence, ruling over Bashan, a fertile land promised to Israel. His reign symbolized a direct obstacle to God's plan. In Joshua 12:4-6, it is stated that Og, the last of the giants, was defeated, and his land was given to Israel. His defeat was not just a military victory, it represented the triumph of God's covenant over a lineage that opposed his purposes. The Bible emphasizes King Og because he represents the persistence of giants after the flood, symbolizing spiritual resistance throughout Israel's journey. He serves as a powerful example of how giants were more than physical foes. They were symbols of opposition to God's plan. The story of giants continues throughout the Bible, with one of the most iconic moments being the battle between David and Goliath. In 1 Samuel 17:4, Goliath is introduced as a giant standing 6 cubits and a span tall, roughly 9.5 feet, 3 meters. He was a towering figure who instilled fear in Israel's armies. Goliath was not the only giant in his lineage. 2 Samuel 21:15-22 recounts the stories of his brothers, who also challenged Israel. One of them had 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot, illustrating how distinct and feared this lineage was. However, David's defeat of Goliath goes beyond physical combat. A young shepherd with no military training, David defeated the giant, armed only with a sling and 5 smooth stones. His victory demonstrated that human strength cannot compare to God's power when he acts. The battle symbolizes the defeat of both physical and spiritual opposition to God's divine plan. Why did giants continue to appear, and what was the significance of this ongoing struggle between Israel and the descendants of the Nephilim? The concept of giants isn't exclusive to the biblical narrative. Throughout the world, various cultures have legends of enormous beings who shaped humanity's past. In Greek mythology, the Titans were depicted as giants who opposed the gods of Olympus. In Norse sagas, colossal beings known as the Jotnar inhabited the world's edges. Even among indigenous peoples in the Americas, there are stories of giants roaming the land in ancient times. These global legends raise a fascinating question. Could they be echoes of a deeper truth? Archaeology offers intriguing clues. Discoveries of unusual bones and megalithic structures in various parts of the world challenge conventional explanations. Sites like Stonehenge, the Egyptian pyramids, and the ruins of Baalbek are often associated with theories involving giants due to the massive size and weight of the stones used in their construction. Who could have built these monumental structures? Could the biblical titans have been involved? Even more intriguing are archaeological reports pointing to giant skeletons. While many of these accounts are disputed or discredited, they persist, fueling the curiosity of both scholars and the general public. Were these the bones of ancient Nephilim, or their descendants, or were they simply hoaxes or misinterpretations? The Bible suggests that giants were real, though the full extent of their history remains unclear. The connection between biblical giants and global legends raises a crucial question. What happened to these beings? How did the battles described in Scripture lead to their disappearance? The giants of the Bible, who once walked among men and challenged God's plan, seem to have mysteriously vanished from history. But how did this happen? In Joshua 11:21-22, we read that Joshua defeated the Anakim in the mountains, destroying them and their cities. This narrative suggests that Israel, as God's instrument, was tasked with eradicating these lineages, which were linked to corruption and spiritual rebellion. Additionally, confrontations with giants such as Goliath and his brothers indicate that even after the conquest of Canaan, remnants of these people continued to surface. Over time, biblical accounts of giants became increasingly rare, implying they were either gradually wiped out in battles or merged with other populations. What persisted were just myths, memories, and perhaps some archaeological remnants. Why did God allow or order the destruction of these beings? The Bible clearly indicates that the giants posed a threat to God's redemptive plan and to the formation of Israel as his chosen nation. They were more than physical adversaries. They symbolized resistance to God's authority. Their extinction can thus be seen as part of a larger plan to purify the land, enabling God's people to flourish. But were these lineages fully eradicated? Or might evidence of their existence still remain today? Did the giants of the Bible truly vanish, or does their tale live on, concealed in myths, conspiracy theories, and mysterious discoveries? Although Scripture does not specifically state whether the giants survived beyond the battles mentioned, some believe traces of the Nephilim and their descendants may still be found today. Conspiracy theories claim that giants could be hiding in isolated areas or preserved in hidden records. Contemporary reports suggest possible sightings in unexplored regions like remote mountains or deep caves. Others think the DNA of giants could still exist and may be found in human populations known for their extraordinary height. Another perspective is that the memory of giants is preserved in cultural traditions and folklore. For example, could the Greek Titans or Norse Jotnar be remnants of tales about the Nephilim passed down and transformed over generations? Additionally, megalithic structures like those at Balk or Gurkha continue to fuel theories that giants might have been responsible for these monumental feats, which seem impossible with the technology of their time. Beyond speculation, these stories provoke important theological questions. Giants, whether real or symbolic, have always represented opposition to God's plan. Could they still exist today in another form, as spiritual forces opposing God's kingdom? These questions lead us to another intriguing thought. What does the Bible say about the last days and the potential return of something like giants in that context? Matthew 24:37 serves as a warning, comparing the coming of the Son of Man to the days of Noah. This prompts us to examine the conditions of that time, both spiritual and physical, particularly focusing on the giants, who played a key role in the corruption of humanity before the flood. Could these beings, linked to the Nephilim and fallen angels, return in the end times? Genesis 6:4 mentions the presence of giants both before and after the flood, and the phrase, "and also after that," continues to spark debates, suggesting that the supernatural events that led to the giants could reoccur. Some scholars believe the influence of fallen angels, as referenced in Jude 6, may still subtly manifest in corrupting forces in the modern world. Advancements in science and technology, especially in genetic manipulation, have fueled speculation about recreating beings similar to the Nephilim. Could humanity's relentless pursuit of knowledge and power lead to repeating past mistakes? Alternatively, the giants could symbolize spiritual resistance to God's kingdom, a force that intensifies as Christ's return nears. This resistance may appear in various forms, aiming to divert humanity from God's plan. Whether physical, spiritual, or symbolic, the return of giants is a topic filled with both fear and curiosity. Are we ready to face challenges like those of Noah's time? The giants of the Bible are not just mysterious figures of the past. They represent a larger struggle between good and evil, between obedience to God and rebellion. Now that we have explored the Nephilim, the Anakim, Goliath, and their possible ties to the end times, we must reflect on their relevance to our spiritual journey. Are we, like in Noah's days, facing symbolic giants trying to lead us away from God? Consider what the giants in your life today may be, challenges, doubts, or fears that seem impossible to overcome. The Bible assures us that with God, even the smallest among us can conquer the greatest challenges, just as David defeated Goliath. This victory is only attainable if we surrender fully to the Lord. I encourage you to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to continue learning about the Bible's mysteries and strengthen your faith. Share this video with someone who might need to hear this message, and together let's uncover more of the incredible secrets the Scriptures reveal.